Hi everybody, and welcome to tonight's live, where we are talking about why is losing a pet so hard. I have Helen Bell standing by, waiting to share with us all her wisdom. And I'm just seeing Heather is online. Thank you for joining us, Heather, from County Durham in the northeast of England. The reason I wanted to do this live is because I come across so many people who deal with the loss of their animals, both in a anticipatory perspective before the animal actually passes, and then once they have passed. And Helen has chosen to offer pet bereavement as part of her counselling service. And we both agree that it is something that needs to be taken more seriously. So I've asked her along tonight, and we're going to chat about all things to do with pet bereavement. If you have any questions, please just stick them in the comments, and I will keep checking in the comments. And when we pause in between our chat, I will make sure, we'll do our best to answer the questions. So I'm now going to welcome Helen, and hopefully, fingers crossed, technology is working. Yes, it is. Yay. Welcome, Helen. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
It's so nice to be here. Really nice.
And I know we tried to do this live last week. For those of you who don't know, we were all set and ready to go, but Helen's cat had to be rushed to the emergency vet. But he's all right now, as all right as he can be, isn't he?
Yeah, he's okay. He's just he's got quite a serious heart condition, so I have to keep monitoring that.
Yeah.
I mean, last week it just got a little bit more than I could control. So,
yeah, and you can't take any chances with it. Yeah.
So he means the world to me. So yeah.
Have you got all three of them in the room with you?
I have. Yes, I have. They're all sleeping around me.
They are at the moment.
They may make an appearance.
Okay, so I wanted to start off with if anybody's seen the post that I did about the cat Timmy that I had in Thailand. I only really had him for a couple of months. It seems like much longer than that, though. And sadly, he was quite ill and he passed away. And I desperately needed somebody to talk to. And because of the time difference in Thailand, everybody was still asleep. And of course, you were based in Hong Kong at the time teaching. And I remember just calling you up and just sobbing my heart out. Did you have any idea back then, that was what, 2014, that you would be doing what you're doing now? How did that shift happen from what you were doing in Hong Kong to what you're doing now?
Gosh, yeah, I think it's always been something in the back of my mind to become more of a counsellor. Obviously, I've taught for many years, and I've taught in a pastoral role, as well as in the classroom. And I think I've always had that natural, nurturing instinctiveness to sort of support people and help people. And I've never I can spot when somebody's in distress, and I like to be there for them if I can. So I think it was always there in the back of my mind. And so yeah, I mean, it's been quite a journey, because my counselling journey didn't take off until about 3 years ago. So there's been a long time in between.
Yeah.
And just basically getting to a point in my life where I just thought I need to reevaluate things, and looking at myself and what I wanted and what I saw myself, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So here I am.
Good for you. And why specifically you chose to do your master's thesis specifically on pet bereavement, but the concept of pet bereavement not being acknowledged, remind me, it was not being acknowledged enough by society, is it? It was something along those lines.
Yeah, it's not something, people don't feel that they can just grieve openly. I mean, you can cry for a few days over your animal, and people can say to you, oh, what's wrong? And you say, I've just lost my cat, or I've lost my dog. And they'll be really sympathetic. But if you were to say, have a cry 4 months down the line, people are less open to that. I think they look sort of like, why are you still crying? Yeah. If it's been longer than that. So there's this kind of thing within society that pet loss is not valued or not seen as much as a human loss, and therefore, you know, you don't really have the right to still be grieving after a certain amount. Whereas actually, a lot of people actually grieve much more than 2 days. They grieve for months and even into years. And I think they feel that society will look down on them, and so they hide it and they hold it and they keep it quiet, and where it can become complicated and difficult.
Yeah, I remember you telling me you had to interview many people as part of that thesis, and I'm sure I remember you saying that some of them, or nearly all of them, I think, were well over a year since they'd lost the animal, and they were still, it still felt raw. There isn't really a time limit, is there?
No, there isn't a time limit, because it's grief. There is no time limit for grief. You know, you don't know how long it's going to take you to overcome a grief. It's very individual. It's very your grief, and it's your relationship with that animal that's going to determine how long it takes. And yeah, people that I interviewed, there were so many and still actually I'm in touch with a couple still now, and even now, even 2 years after the loss of their animal, they are still hurting, and they're still quite life difficult. They're functioning, they're getting on with life, they're doing things, they're not hiding away, but they're still hurting, and they're still struggling with certain aspects, for sure. And they keep it silent. They don't tell anybody about it. They're walking around with this pain because they don't feel that they will be acknowledged or heard. So,
yeah. And I think that's why it's so great for you as an animal lover. Or obviously, I think you'd have to be an animal lover to offer this type of service. But you know, you have animals, and you've also lost animals, so you know what it's like to be in that position. So when somebody comes saying 2 years later after they've lost an animal and they're still grieving, you can hold space because you know exactly what they're going through.
Absolutely. I mean, I grieved, and I still grieve in some aspects for my animals. You know, I think I lost two of my cats in my final year of university, and I was actually, prior to starting my dissertation, which was one of the things that kind of prompted me, because it was such a difficult time, and there was other circumstances around that as well, but it made my grief very difficult, and there wasn't any space for that. And even on my counselling course, we did a lot of work on bereavement and a lot of work on grief, but we didn't really look at specifics like pet loss. And so I wanted to focus on that on my dissertation. I wanted to highlight that this is actually a grief that needs to be acknowledged. It needs that attention. People need to be heard. And therefore, you know, I wanted to sort of write a dissertation that sort of said to professionals or fellow counsellors, people need this space. They need to know that they can come to you and be received, because this grief affects them in all sorts of different ways, and it isn't something that can just be healed within a few days.
No.
For some people, yes, it can, but for others, it doesn't. And the thing is that there's actually a lot of people that struggle with the loss of.
Yeah, and also I think it depends in what capacity that animal was. You know, if it was a family animal, and you know it's a big family and they had multiple animals, that might be felt less than if the person was perhaps elderly and they had that dog for their entire life. Or I think when we were talking the other day, you said what can also be challenging is if there's a couple and half, you know, a person of that couple passes away and then the animal passes, that the loss accentuates the loss of the person, doesn't it? So it depends on the role that animal plays in that household.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, that obviously an animal to an elderly person or to a person that lives on their own can hold huge significance. And you know, it's routine, it's that companionship, it's getting up in the morning and having that animal there with them, and then to lose that is huge. It's the social aspect. You know, if you have a dog, for example, you walk your dog and you go out into the park and you bump into fellow dog walkers and you have a conversation. They might be the only conversations you have in the day.
Yeah.
So when you lose that animal, you're losing all sorts of other aspects to your life that you have to try and adjust to, and it can be really hard. And the one thing I did find in my research, however, is that pet loss actually profoundly hit people who do have a family dog. They can have a busy life, and they can have a family at home, and they can still be massively affected by the loss of. So it's the relationship, that connection.
Yeah.
And family members will have a very, very strong connection to an animal, and even though they've got busy lives and they've got other distractions, they're still left devastated. And so even more devastated because they look and think, what's wrong with me? Why am I still feeling like this after 2 months or 3 months? And they start to sort of get annoyed with themselves and sort of deny their grief. Can't be, I've got this, I've got that, but I
should be over it by now.
So, I mean, the fact is that they are grieving still for their animal.
Yeah.
So actually, that loss of an animal can hit anybody.
Yeah.
It's very unexpected.
I'm just going to say hello to Alison, who's just joined us from London. She says a friend lost her dog at Christmas and she's still devastated. And I'm dreading my loss when the time comes. Just before we went live, Helen and I were saying we lose animals and yet we still have them again. And we were kind of saying, is it because that being loved by an animal is ultimately greater than the loss? I don't know, in a different context maybe, but it is hard. I think we all of us who have animals, I know Heather, who's online, particularly Helen, has Wolfen, a beautiful, beautiful white wolf dog. And I know she also says, when that time comes, it's going to be incredibly hard. Alison has said here, I don't know how to help my friend. Do you have any advice for helping people whose friends have lost animals?
Well, I mean, obviously I work with clients who are struggling with the loss of their animal, and often, giving them that space and that time together where we can talk in a confidential space where they can really work through their grief and to look at what's happening for them and what they're feeling and what they want to say that they feel they can't say can be healing in itself. And just being able to understand and to put everything into context as well. It's a difficult time, it really is, and I think that's why sometimes we can work through the loss of our animal on our own and we can manage it. Sometimes it's just not, it's become so difficult to do that, and that's where I feel counselling is so important, because they are struggling with a loss and it's affecting their life and they've lost their joy and they are finding that their day-to-day life is not as it should be or how it was. Then seek that support and have that conversation with somebody. And also when you're grieving, it affects your body, your physical self.
That's right.
And making sure that you're eating well and you're trying to exercise, getting out, and even if you do a 15-20 minute walk each day, even if it's hard to do it, to get out in the fresh air, to sort of just try and ground yourself, and to make sure you're getting enough sleep, because grief does have a physical impact.
It does. And
if it starts to suffer, then your emotional side becomes more difficult for you to cope with. I mean, sometimes people do need to talk it through. To have that place to be able to just and have that acknowledgement and somebody to really hear what their experience is and what it's like for.
I think that's it. So I was going to say for Alison, then it's important just to allow her friend the space to just grieve in whichever way she needs to grieve. I think we're all too quick to give advice and, oh no, you'll be all right. Why don't you just get another dog? Or, oh no, you'll be all right. It'll be fine. You've got another dog. And it's like, maybe it's not about giving advice, is it? It's just about letting them work through.
Well, I think the worst thing you can say to somebody is, oh, you can get another dog.
Yes. No.
You can get another cat. It's about hearing their experience. And not sharing your own experience. and not sharing your own advice, because it is their journey, and it's
that's important. Yes,
being support and understanding that, you know, I've lost animals and you've lost animals, but our experiences are,
that's right.
We will have similarities, but we will have differences as well.
That's right. Yeah.
That hearing each experience and listening, validating that. And I think that the power of talking and being really, really heard.
Being heard. Yeah. Yeah. Well, good luck with Alison. Good luck with that, Alison. I know that's hard. Your post yesterday about anticipatory grief spurred quite a few comments. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, not only from what I saw from the comments, not only from animals, but also from people. In the work that I do transition readings, which is, you know, to help people understand from the animal's perspective what they need before they pass. Yeah. But whilst that gives them some comfort, knowing that the animal wants certain things or needs certain things to make its last kind of days, weeks, months comfortable, the emotions that they go through knowing that that animal is going to pass. What are your thoughts? I mean, I know it was a fabulous post. If anybody's watching, have a look at Helen's post. It was on LinkedIn, and it was really quite thorough. Yeah. But it is quite a heavy thing. It's you know, you're starting to grieve before you've lost that person or animal.
Oh yeah, it's an awful thing. And I think the post that I did yesterday, I mean, obviously it was kind of prompted from last week when my own animal was poorly again, and I had to take him in, because it's another moment where I think, is this it?
Is this it? Yeah.
Things change. And, you know, I live with that anticipation every single day. So it's very, very heavy, and it's hard sometimes. And you try to be positive, and but you're always watching and waiting. And it transcends, as you say, from animal to human. You know, many people have cared for loved ones, and we've had to wait and wonder and watch. And it's a really, really tough thing. And I think it's incredibly lonely. It's such the experience. And you're having to be two people in those situations as well. You're having to be the positive smile, looking after you, care of you, and the same with your animal. You know, you can't just sit there, and you've got to make sure you're proactive, and you're getting onto the medication, and you're feeding them well, and you're looking after them, and but then on the other side, there's just you by yourself, and actually you're just so heartbroken over this impediment that you just want to curl up in a little ball, and you can't. And it's tough. It's emotionally tough, because you're having to be really strong, but actually you're inside, you're very, very upset, and it creates a lot of anxiety, because you're constantly in your mind thinking, what is it going to look like? How is it going to happen? When is it going to happen?
Yeah.
How am I going to cope with it? How is it going to feel when they've gone? What am I going to do? What's it going to be? Where am I going to be?
Yeah, there's just so much uncertainty, isn't there?
Put in your head just spins, and it is such a hard place to be. Anticipatory grief is a really difficult place to be.
What do you think is the greatest struggle for people when they lose an animal? Is it the loss of companionship? Is it the unconditional love that an animal gives them? What do you think? Or do you think it's dependent on people's upbringings, lifestyles, and the role that animal plays?
Gosh, that's such a big question.
Well, we've only got an hour, so that could be its own life.
We definitely, and probably lots more. You know, the way that we are raised as children, the way that we grow up, the people that we are, essentially. You know, what sort of things bring us joy. And, you know, if you're the type of person that connects to animals and finds joy and love within them, it can be obviously so much harder to lose them. And circumstances in your life, you know, are you lonely? You might be in a relationship, but you still can be lonely. But your animal is there. You know, I know that one lady that I interviewed her. You know, she was in a violent relationship, and her words to me were, you know, if it hadn't been for my dog, I would not be here today. My dog saved me, literally saved me.
Yeah.
And when she lost him, her words were, I lost him, and then she went and sat in the car, and she says, I heard this awful, shivering scream, and she says, I realised it was me.
Oh, that's horrible.
Stop screaming. I feel really upset thinking about it now, because I think at that point, you know, it's so impactful, and it took her a long time. And she went on to have other dogs, and she loves those dogs as much, but that dog for her was
life-changing. Yeah.
So, gosh, what was your original question?
You see, there's so many branches to that answer. Well, it was the greatest struggle when people lose an animal, but I think you're right. It's such a huge topic, and it's really dependent. I think we touched on it slightly at the beginning. It's really dependent on the role that animal plays. You know, if okay, so
but I think, as I say, just I'm going to say, I think guilt is quite a big one as well. Guilt is one of the big struggles, particularly if you've had to euthanize your animal as well. But
yes,
that a bit more, but so that, you know, that is like one of the emotive struggles that people have.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, well, we can move on to that one, because that's quite a nice roll on. So I was going to say, one of the things that people, certainly when I do the Rainbow Bridge reading, so when we connect with animals that have already passed, the question most of the time people ask is, you know, do you understand why I did what I did? Because people are so frightened that they made the wrong decision. Did I put you to sleep too soon? Did I wait too long? Didn't I wait long enough? Etc., etc. There's so much guilt, and it's just trying to understand from the animal's perspective. Just quickly, I would like to say animals don't hold grudges, right? So there's never an animal that goes, well, you could have given me another 2 weeks. I was a bit chipper that morning. You know, it doesn't quite work, but you don't know these things. And I mean, you know, with Timmy, the cat in Thailand, I'd been visiting him morning and night for about a week. And for some reason, I just decided that night not to go. And it was the following morning when, you know, the vet called me to say, I'm sorry, he died. And I was like, oh, he died because I didn't go. Do you know what I mean? And I still picture him sitting in his little cage, he had a little drip, and he was so thin, bless him. And I still picture him going, it's all right, she'll come. She always comes. You know, I know it's terrible. And I mean, somebody said to me the other day, well, why don't you talk to him and ask him? It's like, I can't, because that guilt for me is still so strong. So I can relate. And guilt, it's another loaded question, Helen. We could talk for hours about it, but how do people deal with that guilt? How do they get past that?
It's hard. There's no two ways about it. I think it's like they're in a room and they're so engulfed in guilt, and they're trying to desperately find a door to open. And, you know, it can take quite a while. I've worked with clients where they can release that guilt quite quickly. They can see something, and they can find, you know, I work with clients in a way that I help them to find their own solutions, because it is their life, it's their experience, and they find their solution. And I work with them to help them find that. Some people do struggle. It takes a long time, and it will circumstances, you know.
Yeah.
If you've lost an animal in a traumatic way, and it normally involves veterinary practices where there may have been a lot of chaos, maybe not your normal vet on duty, or, you know, maybe there was lots of things going on. And you may lose your animal unexpectedly in those situations, and it's how do you come to terms with that?
Yeah.
As somebody who has an animal, you know, all you want to do is protect that animal, and in that you can't protect them.
No.
The guilt that's left because you just play in your mind, what if I'd done this, or what if I'd done that, or what happens if that hadn't happened that evening?
That's right.
Again, there's just all those questions.
And you can actually drive yourself crazy, can't you? Just with the what ifs. And
it's one of those unknown losses, those unknown, the types of bereavement where you don't get the answers.
No.
And it happens in human loss as well, where things happen and you just don't get the answers. Say, for example, especially people who are bereaved by suicide, they have very similar experience.
That's right, yeah.
And they take that blame on themselves. If I'd done this, if I hadn't have gone out last night, or if I had just noticed this or had done this, then that wouldn't have happened. And that's the sort of circle. And I think with animals it can happen as well. That did I make that decision too soon? Did I make, should I have waited to euthanize?
Yeah.
Should I soon, or did I do it too late?
Yes, yeah.
And then to live with that as well.
That's right, yeah.
It's so complicated and adds to the grief.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot, it can happen a lot. My own experience happens where, I've taken my animal to the vet and it's been absolute chaos. It's been an emergency vet at 1 o'clock in the morning and everything's moving really fast and you've got people who you don't know and don't trust. Really. Yeah. And, thankfully, in my situation, I was able to eventually take my animal home. But if I hadn't enough had to end their life, I think that those situations can add to
add to the grief. Yes,
you're in a chaotic environment.
Yeah, and it's not how it should be. If your animal is going to pass, you want it to be in an ideal situation, wrapped in its favorite blanket, being held by you. Yeah, but you're right. When it's all chaotic like that, then it's kind of thrust upon you, isn't it? And it's not. We spoke early on. You used the word bargaining. Was that what you were saying? That kind of bargaining with yourself about, I should have done that, or should I have done that?
And that forms part of, like, we have human grief models, so we have pet grief models as well. And the bargaining comes in on a lot of the pet ones, because we bargain with ourselves. Did I do this right? Did I do that? Shouldn't I have done that? Did I do that too soon? Did I do it too late? And that can create a lot of, you can be stuck on that stage for quite a while, really.
And do you also find that grief, when you're grieving for an animal, it can bring up other things from your life that makes that grief harder to deal with?
Almost definitely.
It's tied, it's like sort of tied to things from your past, relationships or childhood issues, so it actually makes it like a double whammy, doesn't it?
And I think it isn't often just about the animal. There's normally something comes in that's extra, or something that has helped, something that's happened to them during their lives that they will have forgotten about.
Right.
And they're remembering it, and it actually makes it harder for them to work through that grief. So actually looking at that incident, for example, something that happened in childhood or something that happened even a year ago, will help them. If they work through that, then
they have to. So they have to work through the one in order to work through the other.
But I think it does. It definitely does link. I mean, I lost my cat last year. She was 17. She was my mum's cat. So when I lost her, I was grieving for her. Yeah. But I was also grieving for the fact that she was attached to my mother. So that's just an example of how, our animals are so integrated into our lives.
Yeah.
And this is why acknowledging pet loss is so important.
Yeah.
They aren't just, they're part of us. They're part of who we are.
Absolutely. They're our companions, our partners, They're
part of our experiences and our transitions. Some of us will have had animals and we've gone through some really tough times. We may have had some joyous times. We may have got married during that time with that. We may have had a baby. We may have travel, we may have moved house, or we might have really good association with that animal, and then we may have had other challenges in our life, health issues, where your animal's not left your side. And
That's right, yes.
difficult times when you've been alone, but your animal has been there. So they are so integrated into our lives.
Do you find that a person's spiritual beliefs affect how they deal with the loss of an animal? I mean, I don't want to get into a religious debate, but just do you find that, you know, different spiritual beliefs help people cope better or differently, or in your experience, have you come across it?
Yeah, definitely. I think people who have a spiritual belief tend to have more acceptance over things. Occasionally people it can be more difficult. It's not necessarily straightforward, but I think on the whole, people who don't have a spiritual belief do find it easier to accept. And it's and again, it's very individual, isn't it? It's
yeah.
Thing.
There's a Facebook group that I belong to. I don't know, Pets on Rainbow Bridge or something like that. There's so many of them, and I know that for them, you know, there's so many people there that talk about, you know, I just want to know whether my pet is in heaven. And I have a similar thing with people who approach me for the Rainbow Bridge readings, is I just want to know if my animal's okay, wherever they are. I just want to know that they're okay. And, you know, I think that, I mean, the religious beliefs haven't come up in my readings yet. There's more of just a acknowledgement that the animal is okay. And I just think it's so important for people, as part of their grief process and as part of finding comfort for the loss, is just to know that the animal's okay, you know, especially if the animal's been really ill for a long time. I remember this one reading. I remember the animal had been quite ill and he hadn't been able to walk for a long time. And when I connected with him, it was this wonderful image. He was literally, he was like, he wasn't flying. He wasn't like super dog or anything, you know, comical, but it was beautiful. He was just kind of, you know, almost like you do in a dream when you kind of run, but there's like air under your feet. And I remember just this look on his face, like he was so happy that he could move again, because he'd been unable to walk for such a long time. And I just remember the people being so happy. It's like, you know, he's okay. He's making up for lost time, please. He's making up for lost time. Right, let's see. We've got Belinda here. Oh, Belinda. I think it's Belinda, my cousin Belinda. Hi everyone, watching on a chilly morning in New Zealand. There you go, you see. Nice and early, yes. I'm just checking my list here. One moment, please. Right, so handling grief. I did a post quite recently about how different people handle their grief. And I know we touched on this slightly earlier when we said it's very important when helping people who are grieving to allow them to do what suits them. What are your thoughts on that? Do you find there's particular things that people do that give them comfort, or is everybody different, or is there like a bit of a theme? Or is it like, you know, when you break up with your boyfriend, you choose to sit the entire day and watch sad movies or you listen to sad songs? Is there something similar with people, or you've not noticed yet? Or
it's an interesting one, but actually no. I think most people that I speak to, and obviously I don't just work with those people who've lost an animal, but I work a lot with people who have lost significant people in their lives. And I would say that everybody's journey is very different.
Yeah.
And I would say that the most overriding similarity is that they worry that they're not grieving correctly.
Oh.
And I think that there's the kind of maybe a misconception about how you're meant to grieve. And when we talk about loss and grief, and then they realise that actually what they're doing is right for them, and that it's actually okay, it gives them such an incredible sense of relief.
Yeah.
And they really just kind of settle into that grief a bit more.
Yeah.
And the healing starts the process of healing. And it's just that feeling of, I can't grieve this way because, or I'm not grieving enough, or I'm not crying enough, or I'm crying too. You know, I can still go out with my friends, but I notice that some people can't, and I think maybe I didn't love that person enough, and
it's so sad, isn't it? Oh.
Sad, and I think that is you know, as a society, we need to be talking about it a lot more and making people feel like it's okay, whatever you're feeling and whatever you need to do in order to get through your loss.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are, you know, I'm not saying to go and do things extreme.
Yeah.
But saying, you know, if you don't feel you need to cry, it's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you don't love that person, that animal. And I, you know, from the clients that I have worked with animal loss, they have a very similar thing. Oh, you know, I shouldn't be grieving. I'm really sorry that I contacted you. And it's an apology, like I shouldn't be grieving, but I am grieving. And, you know, or, you know, maybe I should be doing this or I should be doing that. And then just say, it's okay, just stop.
Yeah, you just do what you need to do, yeah.
You need to do something, then do it. As long as it doesn't harm anybody or harm yourself, then you need to do it how you need to do it to get through difficult time. You don't need the pressure. And we will all find our way because we are all unique and we've all got unique relationships with people and animals that we love. And we'll find our way of getting through. And sometimes we find our way on our own, and sometimes we need some help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Either way.
There's so many different things of the people that I've dealt with. I mean, I've dealt with some people who've lost an animal and, you know, it's a big effect in their life. And now a year later, they're still feeling it. But the very next day, washed the blanket, donated it to charity, washed the bowls, donated that to the dog's home, gone, finished, overs. And that's the way they dealt with it. And I have other people who, you know, some crematoriums, you know, they do the little paw print and a bit of plaster of Paris, and, you know, they have that on the mantelpiece. And other people I've known to put collars over the photos, and, you know, everybody's different. And I know some people who, there was this lady, it was so sweet. She refused to wash her patio door because it still had the little paw marks on it. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, and I could relate to that so much. It was like, that's probably something I would do. And people would come around 10 years later and say, Colleen, I think it's time you washed your patio doors. And I'd be like, no, look, there's this cute little paw print there, you know. And I think that's also important, is that whatever you choose to do is right for you. If you want to wash the blankets and donate them and get rid of them, then that's fine. It might not be what your friend would do. And that's why it's so important, like we said earlier on, to give advice doesn't always work with this sort of thing, because if you wash the blankets the next day and donate the bowls and your friend's not, that's going to be difficult when you're trying to give them support and you're telling them to wash the blankets when actually all they want to do is go to bed and smell the blanket, you know. So
absolutely, yeah. There's somebody on Instagram that I follow, and they recently lost their animal, and they haven't been able to get rid of the pets at their bed, and I think they're quite surprised that they've not been able to do that.
Oh.
And you know, you can still, when as they might mention it, you can still hear their voice breaking, and it just and it reminds me of somebody. I think somebody had a dog who used to lie on their stairs, and it was a wooden stair. So when I think it was a golden retriever, and it used to lie, and, you know, it kind of left its mark on there over the years. And it was kind of dent a little bit. And when the dog passed away, she was left with this stair that was clearly
the dog,
been left. And so when she redecorated, she couldn't bring herself to change the stair.
Oh, so she left it.
The stairs are all done beautifully and re-varnished, but his stair is the same. She's got a plaque.
Oh, that's so lovely.
So it's like
Oh, that's so lovely.
Just, it's just so those kind of continuing bonds, as we would call it, and people have different ways in which they continue the bonds that they had with their animal. Might be anything from, a photograph on the wall to,
the collars, the leashes,
and that will range in different, some people will have a whole room dedicated, and some people might just have a small photo on the side of their bedside cabinet. But everything's acceptable, and it doesn't mean that one person didn't love their animal any more than the other.
That's right. And one is not better than the other. It's just that it's personal.
It's personal, and it's right for you, and it feels right. And that's why, having listening to yourself and what you need. Everybody has that within them to know what they need, and finding it, and to sort of shut out the voices around you, and to listen to what you need,
to navigate
your own loss. And I think that's sometimes the difference between, sitting with your friends and talking about your loss of your animal, because inevitably your friends love you to bits, but they will share their own experiences.
Of course, yeah.
And they will sort of go, oh, you should try this. I did that. And it really
just get another dog. You'll be all right.
And they mean well, and they love you, and that's just what friendships are. Sometimes you need to shut those voices out, and that's where a counsellor is only going to listen to you.
That's right, because they are your focus. Yeah.
And nothing else comes into that room but your thoughts and your feelings. So for that time, you're allowed to explore what is right for you. And you can say things and do things, and explore how that might feel, or how if you feel comfortable with that. And you're not going to get any judgment. You're not going to get anything but.
Yeah, which is important. Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Let me just look, because we've got somebody. We've got Jason. Hello, Jason. Jason says, regarding grief, do you ever encounter people who would rather continue grieving rather than risk losing that intense connection to their departed animal by healing? So in other words, does the grieving keep that connection to the animal?
Yeah, I haven't actually had any clients with pets who have struggled with that, but certainly humans, people struggle and don't really want to let go of that grief, because it's a final part. It's very understandable. It's almost like once you've come through that grieving, you're saying a final goodbye, and people don't want to say goodbye finally. That realizing that you're never going to say goodbye, that animal, that person's always going to be with you. But definitely people do hold on to grief and struggle. And when grief becomes so impactful that it's actually affecting your day-to-day life, it's affecting your relationships, it's affecting the person that you are, then we would call that complicated grief. And that's when you should definitely be seeking some support for that. And how you get through that. And definitely, some people come to counselling prior to that, but it's important, I think, when any loss of an animal as well as a human, that you do seek support when it gets to that complicated stage, because it can be so impactful on your life. It can take over everything, really. I hope that answered your question, Jason. What about people who work in shelters and sanctuaries? I have a few clients who, there's one lady in Spain who has, I don't know, last count, I think it was 48 cats. The lady in Hawaii who has 60-something cats at last count. You might not develop an intense personal relationship with each of those animals, but they're still in your care. Do you find that sort of grief is different? Because in some shelters, I know in America, they have a lot of, high kill shelters, and that
I can't even imagine working in place. I don't think my heart could take it.
Yeah.
But, you know, people there, they might not be their animals, but they're animals that they come into contact with every day. And is that a different type of grief? I mean, grief is grief, right? But you know what I'm saying.
Does it come down to the person? You know, I think if I worked with animals in a shelter, I would probably get quite attached to all of them.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be any good in a shelter, Helen.
I know that as a person, I just have to see, I can instantly become attached to an animal within minutes.
I know. And can I just pause you there and tell everyone that Helen did bury a blackbird in her garden the other day, which she found in her garden. So when she says she becomes attached, she does become attached.
Kittens like 40 minutes to get to the because I find them at the side of the road.
Bless you.
So I think it's a very, you know, I think people who work in shelters are really special because they, you know, they can keep that going. It's like being a foster care. You know, I would want to keep them. So I think I would be constantly in therapy because I would just be crying all the time. And I can hand off to people who can foster and who are able to get an animal in and look after them and be able to pass them on to a home.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and be able to, you know, do that. They're a really, really special bunch of people, and they're so important. I know I'd be a complete failure at that. My hands up to it, you know. But you know, ultimately, if you're working in those environments and you are experiencing a loss of animals over time, you know, they might come in as a rescue and they might be so poorly. I follow a rescue centre locally online, and you know, sometimes they have to post and say, you know, we found an animal, we tried to save it, but unfortunately we had to put it down. It must impact them. It must impact them. They are there, they care. And because they are lovely people in the sense that they want to look after animals and take care of them. So those are kind of, I would say, cumulative losses, and they pile up. So I think even if they can deal with them at the time, they might eventually pile up, and sometimes just having that space just to offload all of that, or to talk amongst themselves, and have that opportunity at work just to be able to have a bit of a cry now and again, or to have somebody there to say it's okay. I don't think you can hold all of that grief.
No. I was just wondering, I don't know if we've got anybody online from... I'm just wondering actually if some of the big shelters have that service for staff. Do you think they would? Or I mean, it would be a nice idea, like to have maybe a few staff members who are qualified as bereavement counsellors, so that it is a bit like having a first aider, isn't it? It's like you need, when somebody needs it, you've got it.
I mean, it's like in in different services. Say if you work in hospitals, there's probably somebody there that staff can go to. And I know I work for an organisation, and we work in mental health, so you know, our jobs can be quite challenging on a day-to-day. You know, you can hear some very, very sad stories. And we have a counselling service within our organisation that if we're having a bad day and things have just got to us, we can pick up the phone and say, I need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
I think that is important, and it's a good question. Does that exist? And I guess within charities, you know, in a voluntary cat shelter or a dog shelter, it might be within, you know, out of funds in order to do that. Might be more somebody like me to be able to volunteer and say, does anybody need any support at any time? You know, I'll offer my services.
Yeah.
So, but it would be a good idea, I think, because it's still, it must be hard. It must be hard, especially over time, and also just some sad cases that must come in.
Yes.
You know, abuse and cruelty, and that in itself could do with a place to be able to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't do it. I really couldn't do it. I would just, like you say, I'd be in tears every day. I mean, it's challenging. You know, generally the readings that I get, a couple of general readings, there'll be a transition reading, there'll be a rainbow bridge reading, and then there'll be a general. And the general readings are upbeat. People just want to know about their animals and why they're behaving a certain way, or preparing them for vet visits or whatever. But a couple of weeks back, I remember I just had 2 transition readings. Then I had an emergency reading for a dog that was about to pass, that came in at the last minute. And then I had a rainbow bridge reading from an animal that had passed like the end of the previous month. And it was just like, oh, it weighs so heavy, because you want to help people feel better. You want to help people heal. And you don't know whether you're doing that ultimately, and it's so hard. And you get off the phone sometimes, or off video conferences with people, and I remember the rainbow bridge reading, and the lady was crying. I mean, I kept on saying, "Are you okay? Do you need some time?" And she was like, "No," she was finding it useful, but it's just it's just so hard. You want people to feel better, you want to help people, and it's yeah,
it is really hard yourself, because you, as you say, you really want to help them. And you want to have a magic wand that takes away.
Oh, that magic wand! How I've wished for that my entire life.
You just can't. It's about giving and being with them in that moment as much as possible, and helping them and being with them in that moment, and hopefully helping them find that way through.
Yeah.
Again, going back to that solution, that feeling within us, to finding our way through. But yeah, it's so hard, because you want to help, and it can weigh on you.
Yeah. So with regards to people who come and see you for pet bereavement, how does that work? Is there a certain number of sessions that they need to have, or is that dependent on the circumstances? And what does a typical session with you feel like? What does it look like?
Well, people contact me, and then I always offer them a free 20-minute consultation, so they can actually meet me and talk to me and let me know a little bit about what's happening for them. It's not a counselling session; it's mainly a Q&A, and it's for them to see if they can feel comfortable with me, because I do feel the relationship is really, really important. So if they connect and they feel comfortable, then we've got to, that's how it's going to work. So that consultation's always on offer. And then people come in, and, typically people come in with me, my experience has been 3 to 7 sessions, depending on the loss, and depending on what they're struggling with. So it can be very varied. Really is up to you, up to the person and how they feel. So the way that I work is that I'm very much with the client's experience. So I wouldn't say to them, "Oh, you should be coming back again." It will be about them. And even if I'm thinking in my mind, it would be good for you to come back again, it is about the client feeling that it's right for them and they're ready for it. Because sometimes they might become aware that they might be going into an area that feels really, really scary. They're not quite ready to go there. And so they may back off a little bit, and back maybe a couple of weeks later, so they give themselves some time. So it's very, and then others are very. It's such a unique and individual process.
Yeah. So it's not like people have to sign up for a set of 6 sessions. So it's a case, an appointment by appointment.
It is, yeah.
Set up, right? So they come along, they can have one appointment with you. If it doesn't work, they don't have to come back. But if it does work, they can come back the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, that's actually quite nice.
Yeah. I can chat to them at the end of the session, and sometimes they might say, "I definitely want to come back next week," or can I wait 2 weeks and come back and see you? Or so it's very much client led, and letting them have that autonomy about what they feel, because it's, again, the whole process of grief is their unique journey.
Yeah.
They're going to navigate it in their way.
Yeah.
And they need a little bit more time than a week to absorb things and to reflect on things.
Yeah.
And some they don't. And so, yeah, it is a very much client-led experience.
In your LinkedIn, it says that you are a person-centered counsellor. What does that mean?
Person-centered counselling is very much about the client being the expert and believing in the client and their experience. I don't direct the sessions.
Okay.
I will tell a client what to do, or I will give you advice. You may ask me, you may get a different answer to what you want. My way is about letting you find your solutions and guiding you. And I reflect and I give insight. I give my feelings of what's happening for you. I really try to understand that person's experience in a really deep way. And sometimes I might make
like an observation almost.
An observation to the client, and the client always has the right to dismiss that or to reflect on it or to accept it. It's always about the client.
Okay, so that's really nice. So it's not like people are going to come along and you're going to say, right, here is my 5-step process to overcoming your grief. But you need to sign up for these 12 sessions. So it's not like that. They can be themselves. They can be completely honest. They can say whatever they want to say, share whatever feelings they want to share, because you're not going to be judgmental, and you're just giving people a safe space to completely just understand what they're going through and kind of be like a guiding light. That's
I always
nice.
say to people, I'm walking with you through your forest, and we're going to try and find the light together. And it's about sharing that, but it's in a very deep way. It's not like being with a friend in a room or sitting in a coffee shop with your bunch of friends. It's a very experience. I always say to people, especially with pet loss, though, sometimes pet owners particularly have very specific questions that they need to be answered, and that could be, about euthanasia or any of that, and I will answer those directly. So I kind of on my website do specify that I will give a space within the session, but again, that's if the client wants it. It's there, but it's up to the client if they would like to ask me those kind of direct questions.
Yeah.
But sometimes people have confusion over some things that have happened, or they may be struggling. They might not want to know what to do with the ashes, or what.
That's right. All the practicalities, yes.
Practicalities around that, and that can, by able to answer those questions, can just relieve that sort of confusion and the distress.
Yeah.
That's what I always say, that I work in a person-centered way. But within pet loss, I offer that space where you can ask those questions should you need it. And where can people find you? You offer online and telephonic and in person if people are in your area, right? So tell people where they can find you. So I have a website.
The website's in the description of the video. The website there.
What you have to do is fill in the contact form and you can contact me, and I will get back to you. And I work online and I work by phone as well. So some people actually don't like video calls. They want to be on the phone, and that's absolutely fine with me. I am a qualified counsellor for telephone and online work, so I have done a certification in that. And I also work in person if you live in my area. And recently also added walk and talk therapy as well. So, we can go for a walk in selected routes around in the countryside, but that is if you live close by.
So are you happy telling people where you're based?
Well, I'm just based in the northwest of England, and I'm in Chester. So anyone around that area can, if they want to see me in person, they can.
It's a bit far for me, Helen.
It is a bit far for you, yeah. We'll just bring over the private jet.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Helen while we've got her? I think I've gone through everything on my list. there's normally a bit of a delay between the comments, and I think the one thing I did want to, although I think we've pretty much covered that, is dealing with anniversaries. When you reach sort of the 1 year anniversary, and I think that's also hard because that kind of the grief comes back again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can come back a week or 2 weeks beforehand because you can become obsessed that day.
That's right.
And anticipation, and that word anticipation.
Yes.
And that anticipation about that day's coming. What's it going to feel like? What am I going to be like when I wake up in the morning? What should I do?
What should I do? Yeah.
Should I do this? Should I have planned that? Am I going to be upset? If I'm upset, will I be able to go to work? There's all this sort of anticipatory feelings coming up. And, in my experience as well, often people actually get to the day and it's not anything that they imagined.
Yeah.
It's, we spend a lot of time worrying about what that day might feel like. And actually, when the day arrives, it turns out to be completely different. And then people will say, gosh, I reacted this way, actually, and I never thought about that.
Oh,
or,
yeah.
I didn't realize I would have felt like that. So, it's really, really difficult. And actually sometimes the actual build up to the actual event
is worse than the actual event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be. It's not always, but
not always.
Yeah.
Let's just see. Right. Nobody has asked any questions. Well, except for the 3 that we had. So thank you for the 3 questions that we did have. Okie dokes. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us, Helen? I think we know where to find you. You're on LinkedIn just recently, but you're on Instagram as well.
Yes, I'm on Instagram, or trying to be on Instagram anyway.
But the link to Instagram and LinkedIn are on your website. So if people follow you can link that. Okie dokie. Okay, so let's leave it at that then, because nobody's asked any more questions. Although we might get more questions on the replay. So if you are watching on replay, feel free to ask questions, and I'll pass them on to Helen, and Helen will answer them. Brilliant. Well, thank you very, very much for joining us. It's been fabulous chatting, and I'm sure there's loads more we could talk about. But
there is, yeah.
You and I always have a good old chat when we get together anyway. I hope everybody has found it useful. And I think just the main takeaway really is that grief is very, very personal, and it's important to allow yourself the space to do what you need to do in order to grieve. And as Helen said earlier, sometimes we can do that on our own, but sometimes it's just better for us, and perhaps even quicker in the long run, to have somebody who's not sort of related or friends with us in any way, that can bring an objective place to where you can just sit and share things and not fear the judgment or anything. So Alison has said, thank you, ladies, very interesting and insightful. Heather has said, thank you both, informative and insightful conversation. And Belinda says, thank you, a very interesting session. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you all very much for joining. And thank you, Belinda, all the way from New Zealand. Cool. All right. Well, then we shall end off now. Oh, Alison says, bottom line is the opposite of love is grief.
Yeah.
And we are so lucky to have the love our animals give us. Yes. And in fact, that is very true. There's a poem which I often give to people when their animal passes, which is what's the name? Donna Ashworth. You might all be familiar with her, and she does a beautiful, it's not really a poem, a little bit of prose, that the only reason we grieve is because love came first. And it's really, really beautiful, and it's really lovely. It's about sort of welcoming that grief in, because it's learning to live with that grief. You don't kind of get over it, you just learn to live with it. So Alison, that's right. Yeah, we are very lucky to have the love that our animals give us. Bless them.
And I get a lifetime of love.
They do. They get a lifetime of love. They do indeed. Lucky little things.
They are. Right.
Well, thank you to your three who stay. Oh, there we go. Bailey's come to say hello. He's just apologizing for cancelling last week's. Bless him. Cool. All right then. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments. And Helen, it was lovely having you. I will chat with you shortly in a second.
Thank you. So you've got a cat bottom at the back.
That's all right. It's obligatory when you have video. All right then. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Bye.